Hi everyone, I'm here today with Dustin, head of product from BTR Media, and with Jakub, CTO of Deltologic. It's been some time, so hi guys, hi Dustin, hi Jakub, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you again for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, good to be back.
Oh yeah, it's again like three of us just talking about topics related to SP API and advertisement API. I actually heard the positive feedback on the last videos. I think we've recorded two of them. I mean, I know that I've recorded some with you, Dustin, and also then with Jakub. So yeah, it's quite a series right now, I would say. So yeah, it's good to be back, and thanks for joining. And yeah, today I want to pretty much discuss topics of the selling partner API and advertisement API, and maybe we'll start with very basic concepts just for all of the new listeners here, really the basics. So maybe Jakub, I'll start with you. For everyone who's unfamiliar and really starting out with building the tools connecting to those APIs, can you explain the main differences between those two APIs, right? And then maybe how also both of them can serve the sellers and agencies.
Yeah, sure. So in the Amazon space, there are two major APIs. So like the interfaces company can use to connect to their Amazon accounts. The first is Amazon SP API, which is anything about the sales in Amazon. So this is like the Seller Central, but accessible to computers. And then you have Amazon Ads API, which is basically anything related to ads. So this is your ads console, ads partner, but accessible to computers. And sometimes you will need both. Sometimes we need just one of them. Typically, if you need one of them, it is the SP API, so the Amazon API. Because SP API, it lets you get your data about orders, sales, you can get your FBA ledger, stock, you can update it, you can manipulate anything related to your listing sales. So if you are into selling, mostly not into advertising because you are an agency which is serving the logistic for FBA companies, or you are doing ads manually or with external agency, then you will go with SP API and have anything you want. For the Ads API, you will reach there when you want to get your data related to ads. This is like the huge space here. They have a lot of data, much more than accessible via web browser. So this is really cool source of information. And also, if you want to manipulate your campaigns, managing them, and do some advanced things when it comes to RD bidding, for example. Of course, there is software out there which lets you do that, but for some cases, you still have your know-how which you want to directly transfer into software, and then Ads API will be best. Both of them are fully separated technical platforms, so you don't need to connect to SP API to get access to Ads API. If you just want to manage campaigns, then probably you don't need SP API, but if you need things like product details or maybe your orders, because on Ads API you will get some basic sales info but not details, so if you want to analyze this in details, then you need to support yourself with the SP API. So it really depends on the use case, but typically you start with SP API because this gives you the basic data. And anyway, when we advise our clients how to start, then we say, yeah, start with the SP API. We will bring you some sales data, some products data, and based on that, you can make a move.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think it's worth mentioning that this is something that especially we were really confused in the beginning, that those are really two separate entities, two separate companies. They really don't have anything in common. Totally two separate teams, totally two separate ways of getting even the access to those APIs. So this is something that can get really confusing in general. Because I'm not sure if this is the case on other marketplaces. Usually it's really one team working on both kind of, let's say, APIs related to products, but then also to advertisements. So in the Amazon space, this is how it really works. And I think something worth mentioning here, especially on a data part, is that we have clients, we have people asking us about certain different kind of information, and very often actually we also recommend to use third-party providers. I mean, there's a Rainforest, there's Datahog, there's Keep API, I think one of the most powerful APIs. So really, the topic of the data really doesn't end on using those two APIs. And maybe here, Dustin, I'll especially ask you, from the agency perspective. I mean, BTR Media is one of the most recognizable agencies out there, especially in the US. For you guys, which API do you mostly use?
We by far use the ads API for the majority of our needs. And I would agree with everything that Jakub had said as far as allocating the two and what their needs are. If you want ads data, ads API, that's where we heavily lean. That's where marketing stream is. That's where all of your ad console data is. That's where everything related to AMC, which is one of the biggest talking points in the space right now, all of that is in the ads API section. We get into the SPI a little bit. I have my own personal brand where I initially got involved in it several years ago. Actually, with your guys' help, especially Jakub, trying to get set up with the public app versus the private app and the SP API, that's where a lot of difficulties come in. And you guys having a course that's coming out, helping through a lot of those pain points, I think is fantastic, because this is definitely a pain point if you have a lot of brands that you're working with to try to pull this data in. But SP API, primarily we're looking at inventory levels, the business report for the sellers and vendors, and then hopefully at some point we can get into getting some search query performance, because that's also a really big report that at this point, unfortunately, is still not available yet.
Yeah, search query performance is a big topic now in the space.
It is.
I think we had some requests, right, regarding this one, Jakub?
Yeah, we have a lot, and we are thinking about this a lot with our clients and internally, doing research with our partners and also on our own. We hope we're gonna find a way. I mean, there are providers out there that have really good solutions, like Helium 10, for example, but there are also other providers that they have some estimates when it comes to, for example, volume, but this is more like guessing. So if you compare the same keyword from different providers, they will give you totally different numbers. So we basically don't know who is telling the truth, and they probably also do not. But at least they have something, and maybe it's enough if you want to see whether something is popular or not. This is like one question you might try to answer. Maybe not getting exact number, but maybe for most cases, it will be enough to kind of order the keywords. Okay, I have those 10 keywords, and please tell me which of them are the hottest right now. And maybe this is better than, maybe that's enough, maybe not better, but enough to do some decisions on what to put your money on, depending on your strategy. Or maybe even in like better answers, like maybe this search term is 2 times more popular than the other one. We cannot give you actual number, but it's at least 2 times more, something like that. Maybe that's enough, but we are still not there, and I think the market is still not there. Except Amazon, they have this data, but they don't want to share. If they share, that would be brilliant. We would have perfect information market then. But this is also an element of this game that they are not sharing it.
I mean, they do it on purpose, right? I mean, also, Dustin, for the context, we've done a lot of different research with major data providers. And what I can definitely share here is that the results were really crazy, because we've seen, like, we even put it on the chart, and we've seen like completely different numbers. So yeah, this is a major topic in our company, as a lot of people are trying to pretty much get this data. I mean, it's really powerful.
Yeah, it is.
So, but yeah, let's maybe now focus more on something else. I'm really curious, because this is something that I also seen on LinkedIn. I mean, Dustin, I know that you've been on this SPAPI conference. There was like a hackathon, and you were the winner. I mean, you've built like the nice MVP, and I wanted to basically talk a little bit about this, and also maybe I'm pretty sure that this is not like you started from scratch, since you've developed also like your internal tools for BTR media. You have a lot of experience, but I'm really curious, what exactly did you build that you win?
So, excuse me, the tool that I built actually was from scratch. This is not something that we use internally. Basically, the 30,000 foot view, they announced, here are all the data sets for Marketing Stream at the Dev Summit back in, I think it was March. They said, try to come up with an app. We're doing a hackathon. You have 2 weeks, 1 or 2 weeks, to take one of the Marketing Stream data sets and do something unique with it. So I thought, well, the budget usage data set is not something that's really commonly talked about. Everybody knows Marketing Stream because of day parting. You get the hourly data. So I thought this would be a really fun way to showcase this data set. We already have a tagging system that I've implemented across all of our campaigns, so that you can tag campaigns based on product line or strategy. And so with all of this budget usage data constantly coming into the queues, I thought, well, what if I give a good example that integrates the tagging system and the Slack API, so that a user can go onto an interface and say, okay, I want to receive notifications, Slack messages, if a campaign uses more than 80% budget, I want to get one message every hour, and I want a list of all the campaigns for ranking strategy or conquest strategy or whatever it is. A lot of the time during quarter 4 or tentpole events, Prime Day, there are specific campaigns that you really want to keep an eye on. And so I thought this would be a really good way to help people see how you can take all this data and kind of wrangle it so that you're getting only the meaningful amounts. Because if you're just getting 5% bursts all the time on campaigns for auto campaigns or efficiency, nobody really cares about monitoring those. So something that's more meaningful I thought would be beneficial. That's what we built out, and we've actually fully integrated that. Just got that up and running here at BTR just in time for quarter 4.
That's super nice. Actually, I didn't know that there's like 2 weeks of hackathon. I thought it's more like 24 hours. I mean, again, we haven't been there, unfortunately. But like, because me and Jakub, we have some history of going through hackathons and winning them. We really won a couple of them here in Poland, but they were usually 24 hours, really like coding. But yeah, that's super nice. I mean, if they do anything like this in the future, I will definitely go to the next SP API event, then we may also come up with something. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. This one was not the SP API conference. That was a different one in Seattle. This was the Dev Summit that was strictly for Marketing Stream in New York City in March.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah, I mean, any of them I would definitely need to show up. But that's super nice. And also, Dustin, for your internal agency software, I'm really curious because, I mean, also like agencies are our major players. We do a lot of different tools for agencies, but I would say also that this is mostly for reporting. We've done a lot of different like reporting solutions for the agencies. So it's usually about pulling the data from different data sources. Maybe Jakub can tell more, and then really about reporting, right? So pushing it back to like BI tools like a Power BI, Looker Studio, custom dashboards, but that's usually it, right? And I'm really curious, how about your ad tech?
As far as our stack, everything lives on AWS. I was using Looker Studio for a lot of our reporting, and initially was using just an RDS database, MySQL. Nothing fancy, but as we've evolved, what I'm finding is that, especially as we pull in this marketing stream data, you're getting everything not only on an hourly basis, but on a placement basis. So you have the 2 a.m. window for top of search for yoga mat, rather than just getting the entire day's worth of data. The amount of data that you pull in if you're using marketing stream, it balloons very quickly. And what I found is the queries were taking so long that we're now migrating over to Snowflake instead. And we're trying to rely entirely on the marketing stream data, and also going in the direction of rapid retail analytics. What I'm finding is that the source of truth for a lot of sellers is Ad Console and Seller Central. Whether or not the data is right or not, people look to the Ad Console and they say, what are my sales showing here? And if we run our pipeline at midnight Pacific time, as the day goes on, I've seen a deviation of sales because of attribution coming in up to 6%. So getting back to your question, we're turning to Marketing Stream and Snowflake for faster queries and more real-time data, not necessarily to know the real-time data of, hey, there was 200 impressions that were served, but rather it keeps our database in sync with all the data at Amazon so that at any given time, a seller can go in to what we built out internally when they log into their dash and say, okay, it actually ties to the Ad Console now. But as far as everything else in our stack is just Python, Flask backend, JavaScript, React front end. We build everything with high charts now. I like Looker Studio a lot, but I found that the API was weak. It wasn't scalable. Anytime you want to make a change to one report, you have to manually make changes to all the reports. So it's a great free resource, but it just wasn't strong enough for our needs. And that's one area that I feel like kind of evolves over time, all the time, as far as the reporting and the charting and whatnot.
No, that's great. I wonder, Jakub, if you want to add something here.
Yeah, data consistency is the issue that everyone notices when they start working with data. And unfortunately, typically it is not that we, with any data source and any data platform, not only Amazon, that you build some kind of connector and it just works. It will constantly require some attention because data changes, business changes, and also definition of what is the correct data changes, which is really important. So we often see people or clients complaining about consistency between the API and the Ads Console. Okay, we can get the data from the last second, but when you check the data from the API in details, you will notice that the numbers are different than what they show you in Ads Console, and that's because you have more detailed data. So in Ads Console by default they show you your orders value for the asset that you advertise plus all the other assets that were purchased because of this advertisement, which is not necessarily meaning that this asset particularly was scoring really well on this campaign. And they show you this by default Ads Console, and when you first time get data to review from Deltologic, you're like, what? I have like 60, 30%, maybe 100% more sales. You say, no, it's just illusion that Ads Console gives you. So the shock you have when you basically see your raw data is often huge, and that's when the companies, they start to understand that they were blind, and now they start to see things.
No, that's for sure. We had those a lot, but we're trying together and we're trying to educate our clients. And Dustin, I'm actually also curious about like your data tools that you are building. How about like a bit of optimization or creating the campaigns? Do you use external like third-party tool for that, or you do also create something for your own agency?
Everything that we do is internal. It's proprietary. So our same suite of tools, which I named Armory years ago, not thinking that the name would stick, but here it is still. That's our reporting suite where I've built everything, converted it from Looker Studio to High Charts. That's where we have all of our DSP tools, all of our bulk launchers, all of our search term scrapers, our bid optimization tool. Everything lives inside of that. And that's kind of the go-to for not only our account managers, but now it's more external facing just for specific clients to be able to log in and see their dashboard along with any kind of PDFs that they get on a weekly basis.
That's super nice, actually. Also, like every time I'm talking to different like agencies, if they are considering to build something, I'm saying also like to the founders that, hey, basically if you own your own software, this is like a company asset. So also like just as a topic of the company like valuation, it's completely different. It's no longer a service company agency. It's a tech company.
Yes.
So it's definitely worth it in the long run. But like that's a thing. You really need to play the long term game here. So I'm really happy to hear that it's possible to pretty much create agency, like really good agency, build tools from scratch. Even though there's so many different tools right now out there with like, I mean, those are millions of fundings behind them, right? Like Perpetua, XMars. As far as I check, like there's a really like huge budgets of investment, like venture capital investments involved to even like build such a tool. So really great to hear that.
You're 100% right, but as I'm sure you know and have experienced, there's always a need for specific custom tools or reporting, especially when you get into larger enterprise brands. You can't take their needs and just shove it into a box of these larger SaaS companies because they just don't offer all the highly customized needs that a lot of these enterprise brands, or sometimes one brand that has 7 or 8 brands underneath it, where we've experienced that where we've got one brand that's actually 7. They have 7 advertising consoles. Now you actually truly can bid against yourself and cannibalize. There's no SaaS that can manage that. That all has to be internal tools, and that's why I have a job, and that's why you guys are doing so well at Deltologic.
Oh yeah, it's always this one custom case that you just can't solve with these SaaS, right?
Exactly.
So I mean, and that's the way of building SaaS. Is you can serve only X amount of people, but you cannot serve them all. So
yes,
really happy to hear that also from you, Jakub. Now I have actually a question to you, and also it's related to your future. I think you have this workshop tomorrow, right? Like on the AmaFest conference, you're giving the speech. So the very common use cases and automation projects, like also just speaking about this SaaS and like serving to a lot of different sellers, and there's always need of having something custom. I want you to give us actually some of the major requests of the clients who are going to us and for their automation projects. So like the pretty much problems that there's no SaaS that can solve.
That's right. So the best project is a small project, especially when we are talking about the company, especially when we are talking about the company which is doing software for the first time, because like it's a process, and we as the team, we need to learn how this company works, and that company needs to learn how the software works and how the software development works, and that things are a bit fluid and not always working as they should, but it doesn't mean that they are like that is a bad software. So like we always like insist of our clients to start small if they don't have prior experience. Obviously, sometimes it's hard to like start with something small, especially if people are building something from scratch. So ideally, you take like one business process that you are good at, but it is really tedious, repetitive, hard, time-consuming, and you think how to automate it. So best examples of that is just purchasing shipping labels and putting copying and pasting tracking numbers to your ad seller central, or when you're doing custom products, often this means that you get your orders and then you yourself, or you have some employees who are just copying the things from Seller Central, pasting them to Photoshop, and then generating PDF files that look the same, just have different text. So those are things that basically like don't require any like specific customization per order, but you need to do it per every order, and it takes a lot of time. And this is a place where automation comes in. So whether you work with software, you might work also with some like low-code solutions that they typically don't scale well. But when you take this process, let's say those tracking numbers, typically it means that for each order you need to see what's inside the order, what will be the size of the shipment, purchase the shipment, get the tracking number, copy and paste it to Seller Central, or do it directly in Seller Central. Then, if this is such task and you need to do it 500 times a day, then maybe you write a software which will do it in whatever, like 1 minute, and you would do it like 3 hours. So maybe the person who's doing that will be able to do something else, like maybe preparing, like if we're talking about graphics, maybe instead of copying and pasting customer names onto the max, it's better that this person is doing some like, advertisement banners, whatever for you, which is bringing you more value. So yeah, the tracking numbers, really cool idea. We just have a software which gets the order data, and it's possible to do a lot here. Like even you have some non-standard orders with some products that are super huge or different in size, so they are also sometimes different in size to what Amazon catalog specifies. I know there are sellers struggling with that. We can also overcome that, purchase shipments directly from Amazon, purchase them directly from sellers. There is like the creativity here is the limit, but this is like really good example of a process that we just take, we automate, and it runs in the background, and you don't need to bother about it anyhow in the future. So an example with those customized products. So we have Max with prints, whatever, pens.
And here we're talking about the Amazon custom program, basically.
Right, yeah, the custom program. So the listing where a client can just customize the print on T-shirts or other things like that, like the color or something. The ones where you download zip file from Seller Central. That's typically how sellers they describe it. That they download zip file or they do something with the zip file. So we can automate those zip files, and typically when you have your Max or T-shirts, they all look similar. So you have, for example, a T-shirt with a print, and then on the print you can have text in a specified font and color. So this is like perfect thing to automate. We can have a software which gets the orders automatically in the real time, which is really important, because then when customer places an order, in 2-3 minutes you can already have it in Google Drive or SharePoint or ERP, and it's already like prepared to print in a PDF file. You can just put it to your printer, print, pack, and go. And you can also think of second integration. So when it is packed, you just scan your QR code and you get your tracking number in the Seller Central, which is pretty cool. And then you are like fully automated, and we work with clients like that. We are talking here about 50, 60, 70% capacity increase of the team because of having this automation. And basically you and your team can do something that brings value to the company rather than copying and pasting things.
Yeah.
And obviously...
Go on, sorry. Go on, sorry.
I'm talking a lot, but this is really like, it's really game changer for the sellers, especially when we are talking about like mid-size sellers. They are growing or they want to grow, and then it's the point where you could grow, and maybe instead of 500 orders per day, you will serve like 1,000 orders per day. But this means typically in that case that you need to double your staff, you double your cost, and that's not the way how you want to scale the business. You want to maybe like keep your team, improve the like capabilities of this team, and scale your business. Then yeah, maybe software is a good idea. Obviously, typical copy and paste thing is reporting, especially for agencies. So typically agencies, they want to prepare reports for themselves to analyze them, but also for the sellers or their clients, which can be like brands, so that they can deliver something to them which looks nice and either the company or the client, they can make a business decision out of that. And this typically ends up in copying and pasting data from Seller Central, or maybe downloading Seller Central reports, pasting them to Excel, and then copying and pasting them to another Excel file, which is fine. But okay, it's fine when you have 2-3 clients. But when you have like 30 clients or maybe 300 clients, then definitely you shouldn't think like that. When you have 3,000 clients, then you definitely need the software for that. And getting data is the best task for any kind of API, because the data is just lying there. You can bring it to your platform and then do anything you want with it. Prepare reports. They can be prepared manually, semi-manually, automatically. It really depends on the use case and the budget, and the budget should depend on the value you are able to take out of this project. But yeah, most important I think is that it saves your time by delivering you the same or better value without needing to increase your cost hugely.
Totally. I really like all of those examples that you mentioned. I mean, especially the really niche one with the custom products. I actually wonder, Dustin, do you have any clients who are doing custom program, like the custom program on Amazon?
I don't. I'm not the person to ask that question to. I'm not that specifically involved with the clients on that end. So
yeah, sure, no worries. I was just curious, right? Because it's a very different client actually. I mean, as we saw, just the needs, the automations that we are building for them. It's just that each product is so different, and then if you are getting it from the Amazon, as Jakub mentioned, normally it's like for the zip file, then you get all of this customized order that the client is clicking on the Amazon side. But then to really print this product, prepare it, this is another level. To create a whole automation there's just no one SaaS that can solve it, because in the end, you really need to provide it even to your own printers or to the printing company, and you have to provide it with very good quality. And what Amazon gives you back is just this super shitty JPEG and then zip file with some different logs with different JSON files. So we just couldn't find any good SaaS for this. And also, even when clients come to us and ask for those automations, pretty much every time is different. So yeah, this is just something that we wanted to share. I think it's quite a niche topic. I've just released actually one video. It has 400 views, and we got 20 leads just from this one video. So really cool thing. And I imagine that over time there will be just more different those weird cases with the Amazon, that there will be automations to build.
Yeah. Now that you're mentioning it this way, we did have one client actually that was an MOD account, merch on demand.
Exactly.
The difficulty with them is you can't connect them to the ads API, so a lot of our tech we weren't able to integrate, so we had to do a lot of custom solutions outside of that. I'd never seen an MOD account this large. We're typically managing companies that do, 6, 7, 8 figures in total sales a year. So you're not typically seeing MOD accounts at those levels, but this one was exceptionally large, and they were a fantastic group to work with, but a lot of our tech stack just unfortunately couldn't integrate. I have talked to other people in the space, though, that have, because of Jakub's point, just trying to integrate tech and make the workflow so much easier with these custom products, rubber stamps, vinyl, plastic signs.
Oh, yeah.
They're just able to crush it so much easier. Their optimization goes through the roof, and they take off because they integrate these custom solutions that, like you said, they don't exist anywhere else.
Yeah, totally. And now speaking also for about the data, and overall tools, I really want to talk to you guys, especially as you are right now, I would say, veterans in both the APIs. How did you start? What were really your first history with encountering the Amazon SP API, the advertisement API? How did you really learn it? Really, if you go back to the first documentation page. Maybe Dustin will start with you.
My journey was probably a little bit different than even both of yours. I'm a self-taught full stack dev. I never went to college for any of this. As of maybe 3.5 years ago, I didn't know what a dictionary was. I didn't know what a list was. I didn't know what mapping, I didn't know any of this stuff. I absolutely didn't know what pandas was. So my experience was as a seller, having been in the space since late 2015, being in e-commerce and on Amazon specifically, my journey began with writing macros in VBA and just trying to optimize my own brands for their needs, eventually teaching myself how to do Python and then probably just as difficult, AWS, SQL, and got to the point where I wanted to start pulling in the API data. So naturally gravitated towards the ads side of my business, really loved PPC, and trying to experiment, like wrap my head around like what even is an API and how do I even interpret these docs? Like what are GET requests and pull, and like none of these made sense to me at the time, and I just kept persistently pushing through, and I found that the ads side was significantly easier. The error responses were much more clear. You didn't get just an empty string as an error sometimes, which is what you get on the SP API. It's like very frustrating. You know, Jakub wasn't there at the time to reach out to if I had any kind of issues with the SP API. So, but the ads API kept just trying to figure out what these token things are, all this, and eventually just kept making more and more ground, and got to the point now where I'd say I'm definitely at a very mature level with the ads API. Not as much experience with the SP API because our agency just doesn't really have those needs, but kind of the same experience with the SP API. I would say the exception is now it's much easier to use because the requests are just simpler. When we first started, you had to have all these signatures in the header. That was like such a complexity to try to figure out as somebody, especially who had no formal experience with any of this. But they've greatly simplified it. I think the help desk has actually gotten better. And then there are people like yourselves who you can reach out to for assistance. You've got your YouTube walkthrough videos now that make things a lot easier for everybody in the space. But yeah, that's my journey so far.
That's super nice to hear, especially on those like being self-taught developer and learning the things in a hard way, really learning by doing, right? I mean, me and Jakub, we have a little bit different history because, I mean, both of us, we've studied computer science, so we know how to code. Yeah. It's just really, maybe Jakub, you can tell, but like just from my point of view, I mean, I've started when there was no SP API. I've started with the MWS, the old docs. That was already very hard. I mean, comparing this with the other APIs. I mean, I've been working in a software agency also before, and then I've worked for some other tech companies, and I've been using different APIs. I've never really encountered problems with like connecting to the API, and like Amazon MWS was the first thing. Then they released the SP API, and oh my God, it was so bad. I mean, it's like I think I've mentioned it a couple of times on this YouTube and overall, but like, when they released the SP API, there was no like documentation. There was just this GitHub where you could find different like the README file pretty much. Like that was the documentation. And then on GitHub issues, I mean, on GitHub you have these issues, right, which are kind of like a forum. And then the number one issue when they just released the API was like, hey, why is this API so bad? Why no one can really connect and so on? So that was really, and that was not that far ago, right? That was like 3 years ago, or like maybe 4 years ago. So that was really the beginnings. And now I can only tell that they improved definitely. I think the biggest like major breakpoint or like feature was that they've make it so simple to just make a call, like deleting those, like signing off those requests with their specific like thing. I can't even tell, like I forgot, but that was really my experience. And then Jakub, I think you've joined when there was already no MWS, right? Like it was just SP API. I really wonder how was it for you?
So I started with the SP API when Jakub and Chris, the second co-founder of Deltologic, they notified the team that we are focused on Amazon. So I needed to learn it. And this was really like the edge is really high here. So learning the SP API was at the time pretty hard task. I mean, from the scratch, like from making the request, it was like, you know, the days of trying to make the request. You need the DevOps knowledge to do it right. Which was crazy at the time, and but we also helped a lot of companies then performing this setup, and it was still on until the Amazon canceled the setup. But from we can see out there, not all of the developers that are working with SPAPI, they are aware of this change and still try to do this old flow. So like this is how much people like associate the SPAPI with how it flows. So yeah, it is very specific. It is not the best API that I worked with, though. It's not that bad. I mean, you need to learn specifics of SP API. Learning specifics of e-commerce and especially Amazon helps, but it's not the most important part here, because like the SP API has its own characteristics that you need to remember. And people complain about rate limits, about unnecessary requests that you need to make because maybe the responses should have more fields and so on. Yeah, that's true. But when you sit a little bit with this API, you understand that there was some like thinking on like how it works. So maybe someone takes care of it to have this pretty like consistent, and it was not consistent at the beginning. Now it's getting much more consistent. Rate limit are a little bit better. If there is a rate limit that is really harsh, then probably there is a different data source that you should use, and this is probably technical decision made by the team on the Amazon side that it should be used like that. And obviously, we have our troubles when maintaining our software, but they also have huge piece of software they need to maintain, right? So, and I'm talking from this position because, like before Deltologic, I was working in a developer at e-commerce marketplace. We were also having a public API, which really huge API. So I know the troubles, and I know also how frustrated the developers, like external developers, were, and they were submitting as issues at GitHub. I can understand both sides, and typically it's maybe easier to be on the side of the marketplace, but it's not that with such huge platforms anything is possible. But with people who know SAP API, who understand e-commerce, understand Amazon, those people like are like miracles for the business. Like if you have an Amazon business and you work with a person who really understands e-commerce, understands programming, and understands this specific technical platform, whether it's your employee, whether it's your friend, whether it's a company that you work with, it's like you are already like 10 years ahead of the competition here.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think it's really worth mentioning also like this, that on one part, as you are a developer, learning overall how to build tools, connect to different APIs, this is like one thing, but then on the other side you have Amazon, and this is something very funny on our side, Dustin, because I mean, as you mentioned, you are the seller. So for you, the challenge was to learn programming, then build the tools, connect, but you then were pretty familiar with all of the vocabulary and everything with the Amazon. And on our side, it was completely different. I mean, none of us is the seller. Even Amazon in Poland, I mean, both of us were fortunately lived in Germany when Amazon is huge, so we were using Amazon. But like as soon as we moved back to Poland, like we are using Allegro, which is here the biggest marketplace. So just being here, not really selling, not using Amazon was quite hard. And it's just very funny, but you can do that. I mean, I would say that we learned it really also in a hard way, but basically because of the work that we did for our clients, because that's the thing, that they were the experts in the Amazon, we were just the experts with coder, like as a coders, and that was this perfect match. And now we have all of this experience in the back.
Yeah,
that's really important what you said, Jakub. So and we repeat it to our clients anytime. Like we are experts in software in the Amazon platform, but we are not sellers. We are not experts in your business. It is your know-how. So we can deliver you tools, we can deliver you the data, but you are the one who is doing like miracles with it. We of course are here to support you for the long term, but like the software itself will not like solve all the problems. There is this creativity and know-how element that starts on the business side, which then can be transferred into software into some value. That's why it's crucial that you have like technical people who understand what's going on in e-commerce and in Amazon, because then they can suggest things. But that's probably the thing that businesses typically want. That when they have technology, it's not that they only that you tell them what to do. You also want to listen, like if the technology has something nice to say. But this takes time to establish, and this takes time to establish. That's why we are there to help. Like when they are happy to help and consult the teams. Because with the edge that SAP introduces, we see companies coming to us. They have like technical team of senior developers, and those guys, they are like perfect in whatever they do, but they cannot like get order details from SAP API. And it's not that they are bad developers; it's just that SAP API is pretty hard to use.
Yeah, 100%. I will use this time right now also especially to talk about this info product that we just released, because this is something that definitely we internally are actually right now we started to use as an onboarding process. So the biggest challenge is usually when we as a software agency hire developers, mostly in the Amazon space, is to how can they learn like specifically SP API as it's the most common, but as well as the vocabulary, right? So we had a lot of different internal resources, like we've been giving them the training and so on, and now we just realized that this is exactly the case in any other company. And we had 2 months of like vacation period. It's like the seasonality here is always the case in our business, that we said, okay, let's just create like first in the world and the only one in the world SP API course. And I think this, like as far as I heard so far from the first participants, it's really the game changer. I wouldn't say like, yeah, if you are the expert and you buy it, then you will learn anything new. That's not really the case. The case is that, hey, you go through it, and after going through, it's only like really like short amount of knowledge, but like really used. So we have like 4 hours, but in those 4 hours, it's really like all of the thing on like how to connect exactly, Dustin, what you just initially said, like what's the private developer, what's the public developer, public app, listed app, unlisted app, what's the OAuth, what is the OAuth workflow for the actual SaaS. So if you have like public listed app and you have unlimited connections, how to handle them. And then what Jakub, you said, rate limits, how to overcome them. Was the top token bucket algorithm, how to actually use it in the API? Because those are those things, even though you go through the documentation, you just cannot really focus on them as there's so many information. So that's what we really try to do in those 4 hours, like how to set up the notifications API, how to use the orders API, the feeds API, all of the essentials that after just going through it, you can really pretty much then go to the SP API docs and start working on any task that you need. So I just wanted to really use this small amount of time here to talk about it, because this is something that we've been looking for when we started, and no one really did it. So
I think it's fantastic that you're doing this. I'll just throw that out there. As someone, like I said, who's a full stack developer that's completely self-taught, I have people in the space often, very often, asking me questions about the SP API or the Ads API, and they have their expertise, their domain expertise, because they're in the trenches. They're actual, like myself, a seller or an advertising manager, and they can envision what to do with the data, but they don't know how to take it to the next step. And they're maybe more of a hands-on DIY kind of person. They want to build these things on their own. And just thinking back, that's the exact journey that I went on, but nothing like this existed. If I had this resource a few years ago, it would have been a no-brainer to use. I would have saved hundreds of hours trying to experiment and learn this on my own versus just doing this simple course. So hats off to you guys. I think it's fantastic.
Thanks a lot. And yeah, so far, I mean, we got a lot of positive feedback. We are kind of, especially initially, I was scared because I was recording it, and especially after like the video editors, when they cut all of the small breaks and everything, it was just 4 hours, like, wow, is it really enough? But then I thought, actually, back in the days when I was going through the online courses, like the Udemy ones, like when I was trying to learn Django, Python, and then when there was like this course, like full package course, 40 hours, after like 3 hours, I was done. I just couldn't really go through it. So I think it's really like benefit here. So yeah, let's see how it goes. It's just I wanted to definitely to talk about it, as I'm kind of sure that this product was really needed in this space. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dustin, also for saying about your experience. I think, guys, that we kind of are hitting the 45 minutes, a little bit more, and I would stop here. So thanks a lot, Jakub. Thanks a lot, Dustin, for coming. For everyone who is listening, watching us on YouTube, please let us know in the comments how do you like those things, because from time to time, as you see, we like to go, 3 of us, and discuss different topics in the Amazon APIs space. So yeah, Jakub and Dustin, thanks, guys.
Absolutely, my pleasure. It's a very easy conversation with the two of you to go for 45 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Super quick, yeah. Thanks for the invitation, and looking forward to next time.
Awesome.